that's the big takeaway.
Kind of the thesis.
Giving away agency in which way? By
not
well,
optimizing.
maybe save this for the podcast.
Yeah, well, good point.
Be prepared
no,
to
we're starting.
maybe repeat that.
Yeah, be prepared to say that whole thing again.
All right, cool.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Common Ground Podcast. Your favorite podcast. We talk about your favorite format, Pauper. I am your co-host, 114, episode 114. I am your co-host, Cameron Schindler, joined as always by Thomas, pro editor Gunn, chief editor of the Common Ground Podcast. Promotion.
Ooh, I got a promotion.
Yep.
Nice.
You went from $0 to $0.
Congrats. $0 and maybe a little kiss.
2 seltzers an episode. I
get 2 sparkling waters.
Yeah, 2 sparkling waters per episode. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm all right. I was a little stuffed up this weekend. You can still hear it in my voice, but feeling much better and excited to be here.
Nice. Also joined by James Dual Splendor Hieronymus. How are you doing?
I am doing quite well.
Splendor Dual
Hieronymus. Doing good?
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Had a good weekend. Excited to talk about our topic today with
Pauper.
our guest.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Adams. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Mm-hmm.
Doing good. Just got back in from a family trip. Was down in Cape Coral, soaking up some rays.
Ooh. That was nice. Much needed
Very
after
nice.
cold weather.
Frozen apocalypse.
To be fair, it was very nice this week.
Yes,
here.
it was.
Like this weekend.
Yeah, like there's a few days where it's like, ooh, I don't gotta wear a sweater. I can just go outside and.
Yeah, no.
Today was one of those.
80 degrees was a blessing.
Yes.
Oh gosh, jeez,
It's going to be almost 80 degrees at the end of the week.
You kind of, I think like way back in like episode
Pretty early on,
like teens, we drafted at Vic's house when we did your auto battler cube. I don't know if you remember this, and you're like, dude, I was listening to, you probably didn't say dude, this is me paraphrasing. Dude, I speak in dudes. Dude, I was listening to this Pauper podcast, and I'm like, man, these guys sound familiar, and then he introduced him as Hippo, and it's like, wait, there can't be more than one Hippo. So I assumed it was you guys, and then I looked at the description, I'm like, okay, it's definitely them. And you're like, I do data analysis for a living, so if you ever want to do an episode about that, let me know. And so we got you in a little bit after, like 100 episodes later. Like a year and a half in real time.
Whoopsie.
It feels that feels like last month though, really. Like when you know what day I'm talking about? I don't know if you remember this conversation at all.
No, so shout out to Ryan Sachs who created that auto battler cube, and that was a lot of fun. A very interesting way to play. We figured out very quickly that spell swindle, which is the treasure creating mana drain, is not okay. That one's utterly busted.
It's from Ixalan, right?
Yep, yeah, it's like a 5 mana counter spell, then make treasures.
Yep.
For
I had it was my pre-release promo, and I still had it in the plastic wrap.
Oh, nice.
And so this was the only time it's come out, and Scintilla's just demolished us with it.
That tracks. Scintilla's demolishing people in any sort of limited.
Demillis
is his new nickname. Demillis Demolisher. It would be a pretty good one.
That's a stretch.
No, Demillis Demolisher. But yeah, we're not here talking about Auto Battler Cube today. What are we doing, Ryan? Because I frankly am not 100% sure what we're doing. So take it away.
Excited, though.
I am excited.
So yeah, I've created the episode title that I came up with was a menu of metagames, and looking at some of the work that I've done here with metagames, but it's really more of an instructional piece for myself that I'm a geologist, and I do a lot of work with, probably just best call them images that are derived from like medical imaging techniques. Think like MRIs or EKGs or CAT scans. But if you scale that up to the ground, and that's if you're taking X-rays of the ground, and that's what I deal with, and that field, started out, with very simple, we're going to lay a line of cables out on the ground. We're going to put stakes in the ground. We're going to measure tiny electrical fields or the velocity of sound waves. And as we started to advance, we started to pull things behind ATVs or tow them on boats, and now we're doing drones and helicopters and aircraft, and the amount of data that we collect is starting to get crazy. And so I went back to school. I took a bunch of online courses on machine learning and data science to deal with the volume of data that, I can see it. I understand it. I understand how that how these electrical signals we can translate them into geology. That's something I understood. But when we start to just collect millions of data points, that starts to become just beyond the software and my knowledge too. So I took a bunch of online courses looking at machine learning and data science to try and extract all that information and make sense of it. But all those courses are taught for business majors. They're taught to deal with emails and sales data, and so they don't have. All of my data is maybe the real world is the wrong choice, but it's spatial. It's got a place and often a time associated with it, and that's an additional hurdle that I have to work around. And so I found myself needing an intermediate data set to work with that did not have those additional complications, and so the magic data has been something to deal with that. So
cool.
This has been kind of an exercise looking at metagames and as kind of either like cuisines or ecosystems. So this is looking at metagames and trying to align yourself properly within the metagame, taking advantage of the data that's out there.
Very cool. We'll pull the curtain back for the listeners. We're sitting in the living room here at James and Cameron's house where we usually record, and Ryan, and Ryan, that's last name. Ryan is hooked up to. I'm just gonna start that over.
I like it.
A little imperfection.
Yeah.
A little imperfect. Hey, get out of my bag. Get out of my bag.
You can pull the facade of you're not perfect.
Oh, people listening know I'm not perfect. I let enough slip through the edit. They know I'm not perfect. But anyway, so Ryan has this whole PowerPoint pulled up on the TV in front of us. So for folks who are listening at home and want to follow along, we're going to include a link to these slides in the show notes in Discord, so y'all will have access to them. So if you're not driving, if you're in a position to follow along, please do. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff. We might hop around a little bit. We'll do our best to make it followable as we can. But for the most part, all of the data that Ryan's working with here will be available to everyone, and so do with that as you will.
Or if you got a self-driving car, still pay attention to the road.
Please still drive.
I will not condone that. I don't need to get a lawsuit in the mail being like he told me to go hands free. There you go,
Ryan. Take it away.
Indeed. So I'm a geologist. So you're getting a conference talk here. So I'm relying on the other co-host to interrupt me if I've gone into lecture mode here. But we'll start with some acknowledgments and then some assumptions. So we're working with aggregate data here. This is data that's coming from places like MTG Goldfish, MTG Dex, MTG Top 8, and Scryfall. We don't have separate game 1 versus game 2 or 3 data. That would be awesome. That would be such a huge improvement to be able to look at how effective sideboard cards are directly rather than kind of inferring that. And that we hope that there's enough signal in that aggregate data to be used for kind of both sides of the coin. When we're going to look at the game 1, how does it look out of the box versus how does it look, versus sideboard. A lot of the work with the sideboard cards and the the vulnerability of certain decks of decks to certain sideboard effects is really subjective and based on my own experience. So come at me in Discord.
They will.
Razor 8790.
You were very active in our Common Ground Discord, so this is it's Razor Head?
Razor Lead.
Razor Lead. Jesus,
Yep.
I just see I don't ever read the second part of usernames. That's a me problem.
Garrison I was really surprised Garrison got the reference. This comes from the old Mech Warrior 4, the old BattleTech products. One of the single player campaign. That was one of the things, and I thought that was cool back in high school. So
nice.
Been rolling with that ever since. And then finally that the butterfly effect isn't quite what I'm going for here, but in that vein of kind of circular logic, that if someone takes this analysis and applies it, and that changes the results, and that if a lot of people do that, that really changes the results. So
Sure.
this is kind of something that you'd want to do ahead of time, but that you might want to keep a little bit to yourself. That you guys caused this very effect when you guys called out elves for the cup.
There was a lot of elves.
Shocker, there's 9 elves.
But do you actually believe that us saying that caused it? Because we also said like,
Oh yeah, no,
we also
I
said
switched
Jum was a
from
good
tear to
choice.
rally.
really?
There was more rally than I was expecting.
Yeah,
compared to just straight madness.
I'm a tear gamer. I mean, you guys know that.
Oh, yeah, you
I'm
were.
pretty much a blue mage, and
Yeah.
that. But I started off. I predate most of you guys. Dark Ascension was my time frame.
Yeah, just before. Just
And
before.
so-
just before us.
Yep, just before
I
us.
started off with the they called it event decks.
Yes, I
yeah.
do remember these.
And I had the mono red one from that time was Stromkirk Noble. And
I almost bought this back in the day. I do know
and that-
exactly what you're talking about.
That evolved into like the big red with Thundermaw and Bonfire of the Damned.
Oh, yeah.
And
Very cool.
I really, really enjoyed that. And then that got me into Modern. I played Affinity for a long time.
I think when I met you, you were a Jund gamer.
I did. When I was playing, I'm from Chicago, and so I played up there at Hot Sauce and Pastimes, and that. So I would flip back and forth between Affinity and Bring to Light Scape Shift.
Oh.
That way, if someone had started to do this metagame action, that you always had to guess. And then came down here. I've always cubed. I had we mentioned the auto battler. That was kind of a one-off. That's kind of floating around, but I have my pride and joy is the common uncommon, like Power Max cube, doing some cool stuff with Lesson and Learn. Really excited for Strixhaven after getting all the lessons in Avatar.
Yeah.
And then really enjoyed the, pre-Modern Horizons versions of Modern, and so we tried out the kind of a fork of the Museum of Modern cube.
Yeah, that was
very fun.
That was a blast.
So that's where a lot of my stuff. My daughter was born in 2017, and that kind of altered it here for me. But I cubed throughout that. Played Spell Table through the pandemic, and then had played a little bit of Pauper prior to. I had the Nivix Blitz deck circa like Dragon's Maze with when you got to play
Nivix
Gush
Cyclops.
and all the good stuff. So I had some of that, and then
Dragonauts.
yeah, oh yeah, and then picked up Terror and came back and have had I don't get out all that often, but I've had some top 8s at the locals.
Oh yeah.
I think
Ryan's a contender.
one two'd the August Cup.
Woo!
with Scred. I probably should have brought Scred to
This time around.
This fast one,
Yeah.
that would be pretty. I think it was a good choice.
So yeah, but that's kind of covers some of the stuff that's baked in here.
Cool.
But so this this whole exercise, again, these are all just like I'm using magic to help me learn about these things. So it's oftentimes it's a little bit technique driven. So I'm trying to learn how to do certain things, and so that drives the analysis here. But what kind of steered me onto this road was an article by Pro Tour Hall of Famer Zvi Mauschwitz called the Elephant Method, which describes an approach to building a 75 based on an expected metagame, and that was always V's claim to fame. That his Pro Tour winning deck list is called the solution. Wielding these kind of metagame scalpels, and so in that article he talks about their testing for PT Dragon's Maze circa 2013, yeah, and how that. Again, building this organic 75 that it's not 60 and 15, and that you should, freely move cards between your main deck and sideboard to target the metagame that you expect. So, I guess, you guys had mentioned a couple of episodes ago that, we might want to define MTG slang a little bit more. And so what's a metagame to you guys?
Well, to me, a metagame is a collection of decks that one would expect to see at a given tournament or in a given format. I think is probably just the baseline definition I would give. And of course, you could extrapolate, like, get more narrow with it, of just be like, I think, like, what do you think your local events metagame is going to be versus what you think the Pauper format worldwide metagame looks like, or even the Magic Online metagame could be a whole different, like, sub metagame of that. But I think that's like, that's what comes to mind.
It is. Some people
for
are
me.
putting return centaurs in their sideboard. It's definitely its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think a metagame is just a collection of decks in a room, and that room is both micro and macro. So whether that room is a literal room, as in your locals, or that room is the Pauper leagues on Moto, and that's like the macro sense. And then that can like extend to like cards itself. Like I see Brood Scale up there, and that being a part of Snuff Out, and that can, it just all forms and folds into each other. What do you expect to see in this quote unquote room?
Yeah, no, and I kind of feel that, yeah, the metagame is this ecosystem that you're playing in, and that there's, and so when you ask like, well, why can't I just take a stock deck that, maybe I know a lot about the format, or, don't have a lot of time, and that when you do that, you're giving up a lot of agency here, that, and maybe some of that is a little bit buried, but that when you pick a stock list off, one of the challenges or something that did well at Paupergeddon, that you're taking this Polaroid of the metagame that, is shaped by, the frame of reference of someone else that, you presumably don't know. You might know.
But they probably got off somebody else too on top of that.
It's an ecosystem. It's always evolving and changing.
That's a good point, because we see like these elves decks right now, and there's 15 cards for the red matchup. Probably that's a symptom, because in leagues there's a ton of red decks, but I wonder if people are seeing that, and maybe there's less red decks in challenges, I don't know, and just porting that over into challenges, or porting that over in their locals, and giving up, like what you said, the like their own percentage to affect the game, like their own metagame.
Well, and that's where that, you're taking that frame of reference, and maybe it's out of context at this point. Maybe your Polaroid's fuzzy. It's out of focus, because
there's a few cards mixed back in, but that could also be applied to red, like Pulsa Marasa. I don't know if I'd play Pulsa Marasa in my 75 in games 2 and 3 against Burn, but you can. It says gain 6 life.
It does say gain 6 life.
After they kill you.
I would, depending on my deck.
Yeah, depending on for elves specifically, because like 3 mana for that, 3 mana for 6 life is like.
No, I don't think I would bring that.
Anyway,
elves, but
I digress.
Yeah. So when I say it's an ecosystem, we can drill down. There are a whole library of metagames inside of this. We can. So when I'm going to talk about metagames here, I'm mostly referring to what the other co-hosts have mentioned here. That you're looking at the various percentages of the decks in the room. Or in your future room that you're trying to plan for.
You're covering your bases, so we're not having people argue on our Discord about what does metagame actually mean.
Oh yeah. No. I mean, but you can also go up. You can say like, hey, let's look at how much of the room is combo or aggro. Just kind of the macro interactions, the rock paper scissors. And you can go down. You can go way down. You can look at there's a removal metagame. So looking at one of the examples I list here is Snuff Out, that during the brute scale metagame of last year or 2 years ago, that Snuff Out was just this huge player, and that you oftentimes hear these labeled as like rules of engagement or pillars of the format, and that these kind of frames within the metagame. But sideboard is also huge. There's a whole sideboard metagame that certain You have cards for certain matchups, and that's you're going to do well against those. But the effectiveness of your sideboard and the effectiveness of sideboards against you is varies based on those percentages, and that's a big part of the analysis here. Is that we're going to go through and we're going to weight everything by those percentages of the decks in a given metagame, and that when you look at different metagames versus metagames that are online, metagames that are local aggregate metagames, like something you might get from Goldfish or from MTG decks, or even kind of artificial metagames, looking at a flat one, just like when everything's 6% of the field. What does that look like?
I know this is actually another thing that might come as far as metagame is actual card availability, because some of these cards are hard to find. Like, and it could be in different parts of the world too. Like, I assume that most of the Italians have what they need for Pauper. They seem to do a lot of Paupering, but like, let's say down in Brazil, like the Brazilians, they may not have access to like.
They do love Pauper.
They do. I'm just giving like an example of
more rural areas. Yeah, even in the U.S. it happens. Like,
yeah, so the areas that you might find way different metagames based on just literal card availability. So like that can factor into this as well.
Yeah, and so the perception of these different metas affects people's deck choices. It affects their sideboarding. It affects their playtest time. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I'm gonna refer to metagame as this percentage, but that there's this whole spread of things, and so that's part of what this analysis is going to look at. So I looked at 6 different metagames. I looked at the aggregate MTG Goldfish for 30 days. I looked at the MTG Jex has an online one. MTG Jex has a paper one. Ooh. I looked at the largest paper event that I could find within a week of the Cup, which was a Danish. Sorry, not Danish.
German?
It was in the Netherlands. Dutch.
Dutch.
That's what I'm going for. That was 120, almost 128 player tournament.
Wow.
And then I have the Common Ground Cup here are all 80 or 82.
There you go.
Yeah.
What about that unknown factor?
And
yeah.
I did put those extra 2 decks in other, for the record.
All right, cool, thanks.
And then a flat metagame. Looking at just like of the 16 decks that I picked, anything that had basically more than about 2%. Cool. And that, but that again, these are just like all these different recontextualizations of.
They're all snapshots.
Yeah. And so, look, some of these are aggregate versus a single tournament. One of the big things that I'm going to come back to is the winners metagame. That if you're playing to win tournaments, that you don't want to aim for what's in day one. You got to trust your deck and your skills to get through the first part of the tournament, to get to day 2 or the top 16. And that if you want to win tournaments, you need to plan for the winners metagame.
But how do you predict that? I'm guessing we're going to get into that.
Oh yeah, no. So this was something. Yeah, that was a challenge because I want to make that statement, and that I gotta be able to evaluate that. And so I generated a relatively simple tournament simulator where I could feed in a metagame. I was doing 128 player tournaments, 5 or 7 rounds, 5 wins, cuts to the top 8, and that so I ran that 500 times for each of these 6 metagames, and that determined and then went through and did some statistics to look at the distribution and determine what's the average result. Because that's something that, is always a little bit flaky, is that when you do a tournament, it's, it is what it is. And that it's almost never going to be the average result, but that we got to come up with something. So that is how I generated winners metagames for all these, except for the Cup. The Cup, I used the top 16.
Okay, cool. Because I remember when you were telling me about some of this work with this tournament simulator, I believe you ran the most recent Paupergeddon like close to this many times, if not more than this many simulations. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was the genesis. That how once you start adding players to the tournament, that the possibility space starts to get really crazy, but also there's enough samples inside of that like it actually might breed more true to the like matchup matrix.
Sure.
And so when I was running the whole Paupergeddon, I only ran that like maybe 50 times because that's obviously 1,000 players. That's a lot more, a lot more matchups. But I was running whatever their cut was. I think 8 rounds, 6 rounds, 6 wins cut to day 2.
Yep.
Yeah, the average result is not very close to the Pauper result.
Right. I thought that was fascinating.
And a lot of that is due to player skill. And so I'm simulating player skill by assigning assigning a skill value, a normally distributed skill value between 45 and 65%.
Okay.
I assume that the average Pauper player is a little bit more invested, a little bit better, and that
Especially the average player, Paupergeddon, even.
yeah, totally. Yeah, certainly a Paupergeddon. But that's, and that, the simulator will basically assign them a deck and assign them a win percentage, and that every round you're just going to look at, whichever player is on play. You'll take the matchup win percentage from the metagame matrix and then the difference in skill. And that if, you roll a D100, if you're under it, cool, you win. If you're not, you lose. And that, that's, an abstraction, but that's how we get there. So that's how we get to that winner's metagame, which is another type of metagame. But I think really important that's maybe something that isn't talked about enough.
I agree. I think it's a really good point.
So we're going to start to encounter all of these really complex plots. And I don't want to dwell a huge amount here that, we've already, we're a couple weeks post cup. You guys have spent a lot of time talking about the cup and looking at, the changes to that. But that, in general, you're going to see that your top couple decks expand. But there's some surprises. There's some people that did really improve going through, but usually that other, portion of the metagame is gonna shrink down, and that you're gonna really just see, some of the top decks coming through. That I included the 16 decks, and I don't know if I want to rattle them all off here, but that only those first 4 decks, Blue Terror, Mono Red Madness, Elves, Rakdos Madness are really gonna be sizable percentages. The rest of those are small, and that that's going to be, there's going to just be some variance there. Obviously, the biggest one with the cup was the fairies. Dropping 3 people in the top 8, and that's just a function of player skill. That's a deck that really rewards that.
There were 3 very good players.
Yes, agreed.
I guess with the fairies thing there too, then when you're building your deck or your sideboard, how do you, as a person, not a computer, how do you assign what matchups deserve more testing time or sideboard slots? Even if something like fairies, I don't expect to be that big of a part of the room. Yet, if I want to win this tournament, there's 3 of them that top 8, and if I didn't assign the respect it deserved for that tournament, I might have been caught my pants down. A spell setter sprite in those pants.
Well, and that's why that's why I'm looking at this, various distribution of models that, when you look at, some of these single deck, results, single tournament results, like this Dutch tournament, that's, we see these huge, these very localized, changes, or, certainly when we look at stuff like some of the online metagames, those also look very different. But when we're talking about sideboard and stuff, hold that. Let me get there.
Hold.
So the metagames themselves here, which we just talked about, these 6 different metagames and the associated winners metagame, is the first part of the analysis. There's four big components here that I'm running through here that deal with that, and then we're gonna get to the kind of the meat of it, which is gonna be kind of 5 big metrics that I've calculated, and that how those interact. So the second one here is the matchup matrix, and that this is from MTG Decks. I looked at 60 days from the Friday prior to the Cup.
Cameron has left his microphone and is just checking on screen.
And so again, just try to make these as accurate as possible. Dial those error bars in as much as we can. And so this is just a good way to look at the metagame, just very, very generally. These are obviously aggregate scores. But this is maybe where you should start. When you just want to how does my deck fit in this ecosystem?
For sure.
And that, make sure you look at the I've trimmed them off on this one, but make sure you look at the the ranges and how many matches you're pulling from. But
Right.
Certainly for the top couple decks, you're going to have sample sizes in the thousands that are going to be pretty reasonable. And so the matchup matrix is just what's your win percentage versus all the other ones.
Are we able to get this in our Discord too?
Oh yeah, all of these slides will be available.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is just straight from MTG Decks. You can go pull that up any day of the week, and it's a very helpful place to start.
Oh, like this right here is just from MTG Decks? Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is
okay.
just straight up their data.
MTG Decks is goated.
And so, but one of the, again, when we start to influence this, so if you want to know, well, how does this change? This is the aggregate. This is just all the decks. How does this change when I want it in my metagame? Well, then you got to take these percentages and you got to multiply them by the percentage of the metagame. And then when you sum those up, you're going to get an average value of how well your deck is going to do in the metagame that you expect. And so that's the crux of this whole bit, is that when you contextualize things by the metagame that you're targeting or that you're interested in, it changes. All this stuff changes. And so
Context is very important,
yeah.
as we've learned many times on the show.
So the other bit, and then this is the bit that's rather subjective, but I thought it was so important that sideboarding is such a huge portion of the Magic tournament experience that I needed to really address it. And so I wanted to look at two facets of sideboarding that I've looked at. What I've called density, or this is just how many of these given effects do you have. And so I've listed maybe 20 or so effects here. And so, as an example, some of those are like anti-red cards, your Power Blasts, an anti-enchantment
blue blast,
card,
but
like
yes.
like Thraben Charm,
Glamours,
Yeah.
because it covers.
Annul.
Do you have a separate section for like a naturalize that hits artifacts and enchantments, or are you just counting them in both categories?
No, that's a great point. So this analysis is going to favor modal cards. So
Yeah.
naturalize would hit. You're going to get. I have four anti-enchantment cards. I have 4 anti-artifact cards. And so
you have like 8 effects, essentially, but only using 4 cards.
Right.
Right. Okay, cool.
And so this one looks at the density of both the full metagame and then again that very important winners metagame. But this is just the density of them. Just how many cards of these effects do you have or have access to you? And
then can you define the range, like this red to blue?
It's all relative here. This is just and maybe that's a good caveat when we get to these analyses here, is that all of this stuff has been normalized so that it's only contextual within itself. That it doesn't really make a lot of sense to compare against other things. If you're going to do this analysis, you're doing it for a specific metagame and you want to understand how the decks rank relative to each other. And so all this stuff is normalized. It's all out of 100, 100%. So 100 is good.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so all of these again are just kind of weighted, and I've mucked with these scales for visibility.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the other side of the coin is that, when sideboarding is a two-way street, people are coming for you as well. And so this is what holes do you have in your game? What are you vulnerable to? And that, again, this one's perhaps the most subjective.
And then you're not sideboarding against a game 1 deck when you're sideboarding. You're sideboarding against a sideboarded deck on that.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But that in general, I kind of rank, this one is very simple. It's just, instead of how many cards in your sideboard, it's 0, 1, or 2. 0 being, you're not vulnerable to it at all. You have, Cast into the Fire versus Boggles, or, something where absolutely unaffected. 1 was, kind of a partially affected, like, maybe a removal spell against Jund, a lightning bolt against Jund. It's something that Jund, can play through, but right. It's not crippling. And then 2 is, this is your
Dust versus Affinity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, like for example, under the anti-artifact on the section on the left here, for the first 3 decks on the vertical axis, like Mono Blue Terror, Mono Red Madness, Rakdos Madness, like anti-artifact stuff isn't really going to do anything there.
Right.
So there's just no score.
And this all presumes that everybody's like sideboarded correctly too.
Yeah,
well, another thing.
This is what I did was I took an average sideboard from Goldfish, and that I went through all the sideboards for all the decks and was just like, what are the effects that are in play here? And I've listed all those.
Cool.
And that then I made a second, like I was just doing this like by hand on a graph paper, and that I went back through the other, take these 20 or so effects. What are you vulnerable to in an abstract sense?
Okay.
And so the analysis that's really cool is what happens when you start to kind of blend, when you start to look at these in context.
All right.
And so I generated, like I said, these five big metrics, and that ultimately we'll get to a dashboard for each deck that has a fun little radar plot that looks at kind of the deck statistics. So something like a fighting game or a JRPG, you see these little like circular plots that have this little polygon inside of them that, ranks how well they are. And so we've done those for both the regular metagame, or the day 1 metagame, and the day 2, the winners metagame. And that produce some dashboards for each deck, and that we can see how the dashboards for each deck differ between the different metagames. And so the first one I did is just the average win rate in the meta. So again, taking that matchup matrix, multiplying it by the percentages of each deck in the metagame, and then summing that all up. And so, we can see here, this is the Common Ground Cup. We're always going to start with that one. And so
the best one.
The average win rate here, the highest rated deck is Coggates, and then Spy Combo, which I like to see.
It did win the event.
And then, unfortunately, a Wildfire and Affinity.
What happened there?
Yeah, and then Rally, White Heroic, Boggles.
So this is the predicted metagame for this, or
no? This is using
post tournament data.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is using the exact data, and
Okay.
I didn't simulate the Common Ground Cup. The winners metagame is the top 16.
Gotcha.
Then why is there Jund Wildfires?
That's what
This is
what other decks, if you applied, you choosing a deck to play against the
cup,
the winners metagame of the cup.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. So
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
A week before the cup, you say, okay,
this would have been a good like basis,
and that's why I put into Thomas and folks a prediction that I had Rally over Terror, and I had 2 rallies in the top 8. A part of that due to some of this analysis that I had ongoing at the time, and that if we want to look at something different, we could see this is the Moto meta.
Okay,
so this is the Moto meta from the week prior to.
Why is familiar so low on both?
Mono Blue Terror is a 0 on both, which is hilarious.
Again,
to me.
it's just like but that is. And when we see that,
because Elves is so popular right now.
Well, again, this is you're right. That's
also putting my
matchup
assumptions onto the data. Also, I suppose.
No, that's totally. This is kind of what I expected, and why I was gonna sleeve up Rally rather than Terror, because you're walking uphill against Terror. You have a target on your back. Everybody knows that they're gonna have to play Terror. Terror's 10% of the metagame in a lot of places, and that. The average win rate for Terror is not very high, just because it's gotta beat all these different facets, and a lot of the decks that are Elves, really probably doesn't want to play against Heroic or White Weenie, as those are particularly for the Moto metagame are more prevalent.
Also, I mean, it has a lot to do with the particular players that play like some of these like staple archetypes too. Like, there's 2 players like we think of when we think of like Mono Blue Terror, or like Illuminati and Discovern, or like the players playing Terror. It's like they're propping up, even if some amount of the metagame share of the deck. That's what they are, the 2 people doing it.
Yeah, like Sodek being the White Heroic champion. And that particularly the Moto metagame is really vulnerable to distortion like that. But that, again, remember, this is out of relative. So this is just
Right.
in here so that, but this says that, both for the Moto and it's probably not very great for the Common Ground Cup either, that Blue Terror, you're going to be working for every one of those.
So this doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad choice or that you can't do well with Terror, but more of it's an uphill battle a little bit. Is that more?
Right. This is the Jund experience. This is the you're 45 against everything kind of thing.
And but this also doesn't factor in like player skill too, because you said average, but if you consider yourself not an average Terror player, then it's completely different, I assume.
Yeah.
Like if you tell Hamuda, you show Hamuda like, dude, you shouldn't bring Terror into the next challenge. It's just like, look at the numbers. That's like completely different.
Absolutely. I mean, like, we're talking about, these are probably matchup percentages that are on the order of 1 or 2 percentage points. And then at the very top of the range, you're looking at maybe 5, 6, 7 percentage points but that, when you can roll up with a 65 or 70% win percentage, that, that changes the math in a pretty stark way.
Sometimes there are just players in the room that are better than other players in the room.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
I said Hamuda, but I can't remember who the pilots were that always win.
Discover and Illuminati.
But yeah, insert whatever Moto killer of Mono Blue Terror you want to insert.
I also want to call out on those two slides as well that Blue White Coggates being in the top spot and like the 100% on both for overall just MTG decks and the Common Ground Cup 3 in terms of expected average win rate against that metagame. I think that's also very telling. Like Coggates is way stronger than people give it credit for. It has really good game against everything. Thraben Charm, Prismatic Strands, Counterspell is a really good place to be right now. And then you just have little dudes that your Basilisk Gate, just pumps up. It's really, really effective.
So those two slides of the Common Ground Cup and then the
Moto metagame.
Do those take in fact these like sideboard cards? Is that what you were talking about?
No, these are pure. This is pure matchup matrix times your metagame.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's what I was wondering on that too.
And so I have 3 metrics that look at kind of interactions between that matchup matrix and the metagame, and then 2 on looking at the sideboard.
Okay.
And so the second one here, looking at the matchup matrix and the metagame, the interactions between those, is variability. So this one is, irregardless of whether they're good or bad, how much are you swinging? And so we see, unsurprisingly, we see like White Heroic and Boggles be very high here. That when you sign up to play those decks, you're going to win big or lose big. That there's not a lot of middle ground for those decks. Yeah. Maybe outside of the mirror, which can be kind of, but that, and that this aligns to a certain type of player that, I find myself falling a little bit more into these camps that maybe the example that I think of is that, Reed Duke showing up to the World Championships with Boggles.
2013.
Yeah.
And that sometimes you're gonna roll the dice.
He made a call, and he made a good one.
Yeah. That's why I built that deck. That was my first modern deck.
So
same actually.
Again, there are different players that and it's important to really ask yourself what your goals are. But that looking at this matchup variability might give you an idea of like, okay, if I need to spike, these are the decks that might align.
And I want to put out that too. That's just like calling your shot and getting it right, because we hear about these success stories about Reed making the right metagame call of Boggles or Svi making the right metagame call of the Solution. But there's so many other Pro Tour players and like stories where they make the wrong metagame call. And we don't hear about them because they went 0-3 drop or 0-4 drop. Like if Svi with the Solution made that metagame call, and instead of Fires being the most popular deck, it was just Counter Rebels, he would have like flopped that Pro Tour.
Actually, there's a specific deck I want to call out from Pro Tour Dominaria, I believe it was the Channel Fireball squad came up with like the blue-green Karn deck, and they leaked it so early that it actually just tanked that deck's win percentage. Like they knew exactly what was going on immediately. Like the whole room knew what was going on because they blew it. They blew it on coverage for the whole team. So they're like, okay, well, this deck just just plummeted because of that, because people knew what was happening. And they didn't get that unexpected, like, variant level like this, like we were talking about. It's like you're not getting that out of this anymore.
And sometimes decks only write like the right call for that exact tournament. And afterwards, it's like the cat's out of the bag kind of thing.
Right.
Yep.
Like I happened to be a good Spirits player going into that RC weekend when Spirits was actually one of the 2 best decks to play that weekend.
Yep.
And I did really well. And like it was like right time, right place.
Yeah, and then opposite, you play Lotus Field when Heroic decided to come back.
Heroic and Mono Black.
Two Lotus combo players made top 8 of that Pro Tour.
Hell yeah. Okay,
I made the right call.
Yeah, okay. Hell yeah,
I just paired into Heroic and Mono Black
there you
discard after 0-3 in my draft.
Dang. Yeah, damn. That's fair. All right, Ryan. Sorry if we derailed.
No. I was thinking about examples driving up here, and the blue green card deck is absolutely the one that reminds me.
Hell
of
yeah, perfect.
So the next one is highly favorable. This is just like, so this one is just win rates of 65% or better, and so we see again, unsurprisingly, we see spy combo up here.
Kagate's in
Kagate's
the top result. Top has a lot of good matchups.
Totally.
Elves good
Elves
matchups
also, yeah. And again, this is, I want to have a deck that's good. This is basically, I set that 65% threshold as that this deck is good enough that it's going to overcome a skill gap. That if I'm a 50% player, that if I can roll up and I know that, maybe a quarter or 15% of the metagame I'm going to have, 15 plus percentage points on, that's got to make you feel good. So this is a good place maybe for a newer player that, I'm going to win the matchups I'm supposed to win. And that, so this was again, and that, elves, this was again, a couple weeks ago when I pulled these numbers.
Yeah. Cause this specific slide is just the cup. So yeah.
So
all the ones with nothing. Grixis Affinity, no good matchups. White Weenie, Boggles, Gardens.
Well, these are just, they don't have
they don't have the highly favorable.
They don't have a big threshold of highly favorable matchups.
Right.
I guess is that what that means?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving, and we see even more on the Moto metagame here, the effects of elves online that feasting on Blue Terror.
We should have just set up a raw, unfiltered version of this episode where we just get a camera right here, and they could have just followed along with us. That would have actually been really sick. All right, start over. We're gonna grab the sideboard.
Well, I thought about
this is cool.
Live streaming or that
would have been a good idea.
Do Twitch or whatever. But okay, so this is where we this is the kind of maybe the heart of the analysis, or at least the one that took me the most time, and I spent a lot of time and energy going.
No. I want to talk about what's going on here, but you continue.
Yeah. So the first one is sideboard effectiveness. So this is taking that density spreadsheet and your column, and that you're gonna take that and you're gonna multiply it times the vulnerability of every other deck, of all the other 15 decks plus the other column.
Okay.
And that and then you're gonna total that up and you get some score. And that, a higher score is going to be where your sideboard really effectively targets the metagame here. And so this one is a little bit interesting. I wasn't expecting white heroic, and maybe that's a little bit of a challenge, going around or trying to really define the white heroic sideboard, because it's obviously very different than a lot of the other stuff. But I think this is also somewhat representative that the white heroic deck is pretty resilient, and it has just hammers against everybody else.
Yes,
exactly.
So the sideboard is what 7 to 8 copies of these effects that go. These colors don't matter.
Right.
This literally they're color hosers. We have actual factual color hosers in a deck that's already trying to do this very specific thing like the heroic deck is. So yeah, that makes sense that it's sideboard effectiveness. They're just these are cards that will hammer down a matchup.
Yeah. It's one of the auras gives protection for black and red, and the other 1 mana aura gives protection for blue and green.
And then you still get now they've added this lessons cards too. So if you assume, I don't know if that sides into this or not, but
no, that's a little too granular. But yeah, no, I've seen that. That's I've been really tempted to get on the heroic train. I played a lot of blue white and Jeskai heroic in the Thera stage. I really enjoyed the SCG deck was always the Bant one, and I always wanted to play. What's the
Hero of Erois made all those ordeals cost like 1 mana instead,
Yeah.
and that was gasoline.
Yeah.
I played I wanted to play Jeskai because I wanted the double strike
Teamer
trample deck.
Battle Rage.
Yeah.
That was the Joe Lisette deck. I remember this. Yeah, that was so sick.
So we see here. So yeah, White Heroic. And then Wildfires. What? Gen Wildfires and Familiars being ranked pretty highly. Gardens again. Being able to get a pretty wide variety. I was surprised to not see Coggates up a little higher with being able to get Pyroblast and Hydroblast.
So why is Grixis so low when it plays just the blast effects? Is my question.
My guess is that its matchups against those decks are just kind of in the middle anyways, and they're not totally overthrowing the matchup based on just having blast in your deck.
Because like Luffy's sideboard right now is like 5 to 6 of each blast, and then like 1 unexpected fangs,
And, like,
one
a negate.
1 edict, maybe a negate, and like a breath weapon.
How many
so
blasts?
that's like 5, maybe 6.
That's a good
blasts of
portion of your
each one.
sideboard. And if this like data is like sideboard effectiveness, like based on your deck. So again, this is your deck's sideboard effectiveness versus the overall meta.
Versus the meta of the cup.
This is
and it's weighted by that metagame.
Okay, so is it because blue blue decks were low, but there were a lot of red decks too. There was like a fair share.
And so I think this is really good because I haven't really, I was doing all this while my daughter was sick or sitting on the couch or whatever, and so I haven't gotten really deep into it. My guess is that this analysis punishes really targeted sideboards.
Okay.
So if you have a bunch of blue blasts and red blasts, that
You fall down lower.
you're going to fall down lower just because, again, like you don't have the Thraben Charm effect where you get,
You said it favors modal spells.
it favors,
Yeah.
because you're just covering more of your bases. And that's,
Yeah.
and I think that's reasonable. That's going to make your sideboard more effective. I'm always been a big proponent of charms in the tear deck that I really like. I like Vision Charm. I
Yeah.
like Piracy Charm really right now. I think Piracy Charm's really good.
I actually think it's very good right now.
It gives you an actual like sideboard card for the mirror, which is
That, and also it's a card that also just happens to be good against elves too. Like it's a kills an
Yep.
elf on turn 1.
I'm putting them in my board right now. yeah.
But like with this data though, if you are in a metagame that is a lot of like red decks and blue decks, maybe Grixis is not a bad place to be though if your sideboard is so honed in on beating those decks.
true.
And then again, like mono blue is not going to have just like a ton of artifact hate that you can't power through as Grixis. And one more thing I wanted to point out on that last slide too, that Spy was super low, and I think that's more the nature of that deck isn't putting my sideboard cards in Spy aren't there to stop your plan. My plan with Spy, my sideboard cards are to continue to let me kill you versus a lot of these other decks, elves, okay, my sideboard plan, not die from burn.
Right.
Okay, Grixis Affinity, my sideboard plan, blast, stop your game plan. What's first is that mono white weenie has all those color hosers. Like we have like Vidus effects and like for charms or whatever that's rating so highly. But like a deck like Spy and a deck like Rakdos Madness or Mono Red Madness, those are decks you want to do like minimal sideboarding with. Like the more we hear that a lot of people over sideboard all the time of red decks, and maybe that's why those are more low because yes, the sideboard is less effective at dealing with the rest of the metagame, but doesn't mean that plan kill you is a bad thing.
Yeah, because this is all this is looking at. It's just how your sideboard goes into the game.
Like a spy, like someone who's like played a fair bit of Spy, it's like I don't need a bunch of like I do need artifact hosers to get rid of your relics, but I'm not like artifact hosers aren't like they're like dust to dust to double stone rain you. It's to continue to let me kill you. Same thing with like mesmeric fiends, where it's like when do you bring that in? Well, all the time, really, because I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, and this one is going to punish, or it maybe just struggle to define what's the misery card that
Haunting Misery.
Haunting Misery. Like that one is like I like count it as like an additional burn spell effectively. Like it's kind of a weird one, but obviously that's a way that deck can sideways. Some of the really targeted hate that like Fairy Macabre is this like very specific card, and that
That's
again,
what the Mesfiends are for too. You know, you just gotta. Is Haunted Misery, is that the drain one?
Yeah, that's
yeah,
the
that's
one where
the,
you-
that's
they don't-
the
they don't-
sorcery with the lot with giant
Yeah,
trigger.
but it's part of the
effectively.
cost,
Yes,
so they don't
yes,
get to respond to
Right.
that
Yeah,
part of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's
But-
one black for sorcery.
Again, I think that card's terrible in the current iteration of the deck.
Because you can't hit it off Winding Way.
Exactly,
The Stampede.
yeah.
Yeah, so it gets milled, it's gone.
Yeah.
And we see similar stuff, but maybe a lot flatter with the Moto one.
Other than heroic.
Yeah, well, the color
and that's
hosers are
the
good.
I mean, that's what the deck's designed to do, so that makes sense.
Okay, so if the color hosers, if we say like Grixis Affinity is so low because of the color hosers, but Heroic has all those color hoses.
Well, they're also anti-green and anti-black. Like, it cover all 4 colors.
Versus Grixis
Versus
is just
Grixis
like
is just covering
red, blue.
2 and some more kill
yeah.
spells.
I
2
think
and
it's
some
like,
kill
yeah.
spells.
Red, blue, and then more life gain
Yeah,
spells.
it's covering the biggest swath of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's not just playing those. Because it also plays some copies of Thraben Charm, depending on who's listed.
So artifact or enchantment.
So
removal.
it has more uses there as well. So
Yep.
that also makes sense.
And then when we go to the other side of the coin, this one is flipped. So this is resiliency. So this is how resilient you are to other targets. And so again, this one is subjective here. The vulnerability matrix is entirely my creation and is based off of all my proclivities and biases.
You're smart. I trust you.
But yeah, I think this one is interesting here, and I think this comes into some of Cameron's points here. We see Spy Combo fairly high up here, and that you got to put cards in your sideboard for Spy. Like Fairy Macabre was not played a year, maybe 18 months ago.
Yeah.
You know,
a year-ish ago. Yeah.
And that's come on really strong.
Yet I'm beating the crap out of my opponents while they have 2 Fairy Macabres in their hand. I'm just like, okay, 2 Generous, get in the red zone.
I mean, hey,
No, I know. That's not on the data. That's on the deck.
And we see that some of the very linear decks, Boggles, Weenies, White Heroic, those are very resilient to sideboard because, like I said, you got to pack hate for those things.
Well, also those decks knows exactly what their hate cards that they're playing against too. Like they have very specific cards.
I think it's more of they're under the radar, so there's not as many people packing sideboard cards for them.
That too. But I think look at what some of these specific, like I'm going to take Boggles for example. Like that's a very, very specific deck doing a very specific thing.
And that's exactly, and not your sideboard cards that hit Heroic and Boggles aren't hitting a lot of other things.
Correct.
So therefore, it's
basically
like flying
need-
under that sideboard radar.
You need like a Disenchant plus an Edict. Like there are not very many decks that are doing both of those things at the same time. Like
Especially because of what colors get those effects usually.
Yeah,
Like,
so you would be looking at like a black-white deck, for example. Like
Right.
it was even something with Thraben Charm plus an Edict.
And like prevalence of metagame too. It's like
That
you
too.
don't need to pack. You don't need to be prepared for Boggles as prepared. You need to be prepared to Spy or
Or terror or whatever. Yeah.
exactly.
You still need to treat like what you expect to see in a room over what necessarily their sideboard looks like. I mean,
Yeah, and at the bottom end of the range here, we see decks like Rally and Wildfires, where you're going to get hit with multiple axes. Like Rally gets hit with artifact hate, they get hit with all the sweepers, and Wildfires.
The anti-red cards.
Exactly. And Jund the same way. Jund gets the artifact cards, the graveyard cards. And then just some of the single target removal stuff also
even
tags
some of
those.
the like card advantage cards, some of things like Monarch and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Like, those are really hard for Jund to
Right, yeah, and
take
stuff,
initiative. Monarch.
That was always a weird one when I was doing the vulnerability matrix. Is like, what's vulnerable to card advantage? And it's like, well, Jund, all the attrition decks, Gardens, Jund, Affinity, that they are somewhat vulnerable to that because they're just looking to 1-for-1, and that if you're going to start to especially just like pure card draw, your deep analyses and those things like that is a very classic way to get around those.
And whatever you cast against Jund and Gardens is going to resolve.
Yeah, you can get. Well, are we talking about post sideboard? Jund has like cat counter spell. Jund has Red Blast.
Okay, sorry. Assuming the non-blue. I forgot. I'm sitting next to actually.
I'm here to keep you in check.
Yeah, and we see roughly similar stuff from the Moto metagame. some of these things move around. But again, a lot of these, if you have artifacts, if you rely on artifacts and then any other facet, that you're going to just get tagged. And then when there's a third level, like for Rally, like you said, where you get artifacts, you get the blue stuff, and you get all of the pyroclasm, the various pyroclasms.
Sweepers and
that's really tough.
That's tough. That makes sense.
So
we to life gain too. Like, yeah, there's a lot there. Damn.
So that's kind of really the heart of it here. And that I then have we've kind of taken all this data and kind of created these like dashboards, or just like little baseball cards for every deck, again, within each one here. And so for those of us who are listening and not seeing it, so I've got four panels on the plot here, and that these are your like your little baseball card, your little stat sheet. When you're going through the old manuals that came with the little insert in the
Game Boy games, or my GameCube
the little
games.
booklet that would come in and would tell you like for a fighting game or for like Mario Kart or whatever.
Yeah. For any Pokemon fans listening, it's like the the effort values for training, like hit points, attack, defense, special defense, and speed. So if you got them all based on how you have your Pokemon trained, it's the same ring with the different points in the middle. Same thing.
Yeah, and so I'm always looking at, I want to really emphasize that winner's metagame is really important, and that thinking about that winner's metagame is really, and so this one has radar plots that look at both of those and how those might change. And then, so I've like I said, 2 radar plots on the left side of the diagram, one looking at the full metagame, the other one looking at just the winner's metagame. And that those are those 5 metrics from the bar plots that we've been looking at. Looking at, your average win rate across the meta, your variability, highly favorable matchups, how effective your sideboard is, and how vulnerable your sideboard, you are against other sideboard cards. And so we see one here, the first one I have up here is Spy Combo that is aligned. This is in the Common Ground Cup metagame. And so the other parts of the diagram in the top right, we have the win rate versus the metagame for both of those, both the full data set and the winner's metagame. And that's looking at, what are you good against? What are you weak against? And then, again, how does that change as you move things through here? So looking at Spy Combo, we would really like to see some elves in the matchup, and that's, certainly, came out, in the results here. But also looking at, you'd like to see some Cog-H, you'd like to see some of the attrition based decks that, you're looking to really just win before they can get really set up. And then in the bottom, we have some more kind of focused kind of derivatives of those sideboard things where you're looking at like, what does your sideboard look like? And then how does that align with the kind of a more averaged look at the metagame? So the vulnerability of the entire metagame, and then the vulnerabilities of the winner's meta. And that, you can see with this one, so that a Spy Combo is, has some highly favorable matchups. It doesn't have a lot of variability. We see a lot of its matchups are pretty closely clustered around 50%. It does have a generally pretty high meta average win rate, that its win rate is above 50% on average. And as we talked about, it's pretty resilient to sideboard cards, but its sideboard is pretty weak. And that, again, that's because it's really trying to react.
It's not trying to stop what you were doing.
Yeah.
Right.
That it's creating other avenues of attack. And so those by their very nature are very focused. You're trying to dodge, almost certainly specific cards, and that is going to, resulting here.
Well, you're not trying to dodge. You're ready for those cards.
Well, but like Haunting Misery is a dodge in such a way. You're just invalidating Fairy Macabre specifically.
Yeah, but most decks aren't doing that though. Like they're on the Haunting Misery.
Yeah, no, the pure combo decks, or the very linear stuff, the Boggles, the White Heroics, that those have those. And again, because the range of cards to to Hippo's point, is so small already that your stuff is pretty effective.
Then I think I'm just like really enamored of this deck overall. It's really cool in this data point because it has like low sideboard effectiveness, but like a high like sideboard resiliency. And I think that is because the sideboard lends itself to more mass vandals and mesmeric fiends, and then just some life gain just to get you over the edge.
Just these utility creatures. They're not like swinging whole games like on their own, like these individual cards. But they are helping the overall game plan.
But the games I tend to lose, like when I'm playing Spy, it's not when Burn draws 3 relics and I lose that game. I tend to win those games.
Yes.
Because it's just like, okay, you're so focused on that, and I'm doing my mid-range plan, and you're empty-handed, and you're leaving mana open, and you're Burn, you can't really afford to do that. And the games I lose is when they're just like, sideboard, I didn't draw a relic, but I just have Kessig on 2, Gutter Snipe on 3,
and then kill you on 4.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, oh, damn, I lost that one. It's not like the relics and stuff, so I think that could contribute to like the high sideboard resiliency, where like the actual sideboard cards for the deck, Spy is so ready for those.
And in like analyzing this and kind of processing this for yourself, just even looking at the 2 little hex examples of the or pen, I guess what's the term for?
I'm calling, I'm used to calling them radar plots.
Okay.
Rosette plots.
Okay, great. So the 2 radar plots here on the side for Spy combo. So the full and the winners. The winners, that's the top 16, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so like this, I guess, is a pretty good example of a deck where if you were compiling all this data to try and choose a deck for this format, say if you somehow knew that this was what the metagame was going to be, it turns out, I think based on this, Spy combo is probably a pretty good choice outside of a handful of like sideboard effectiveness things potentially. But looking at the full meta radar plot going to the winners metagame radar plot, the scores only go up for the most part across the board. It's already in a pretty good spot with highly favorable matchups and a higher meta average win rate, and then those scores only go up even just a little bit, but up enough to where you get to almost all the way up on the highly favorable matchups. So I think if I'm correct in assuming this, I think looking at this, I would assume that Spy would be a favorable choice to bring to this tournament if this is the exact meta you would expect to see.
Yeah, and that we can...
Wait, I got one more point too. If you don't... Oh, it's still Spy.
Well, yeah, so you can kind of see how this changes. We're toggling back and forth between...
Right, this is very small sample.
The Common Ground Cup and the...
Okay, so but still the resiliency pretty high.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah, the shape doesn't change, but you can see that... online, the highly favorable matchups really fall off. Mm-hmm. That's, again, this is why you do it, and this is why that it's contextual, and that's why, again, by funneling all this stuff through the lens of what percentage of decks are out there, what's your ecosystem, that we can really see big changes. And so, as if we just kind of flip back and forth between these, that's kind of why I did this, and so why we generated one for all of these.
So I don't know if like the data or whatever could like, this could be a reason why it's skewed, or even if it could consider it, or if it's like taking, but the sideboard effectiveness, is that your assigned value to it, or is that the off of win percentage versus those decks with those sideboard cards?
So that is that one. Where my biases come in is that vulnerability chart. Okay. The density is just what the cards are. And so the only bias is, did I pick a reasonable average sideboard? But the vulnerability is entirely my perception of that.
Okay. That makes it, because I kind of agree with you if the resilience to it is so high. I think part of that is because you can't proactively use your sideboard cards against Spy. When you were playing against Grixis Affinity or Jump Wildfires and you have a Dust to Dust in hand, the worst thing that happens is it gets duressed. Otherwise, you're proactively casting it every single time and you're trying to hit 2 lands or 2 Mirror Enforcers or 2 of whatever, and that has such a big impact on the game. Versus against Spy, that Macaw sits in your hand the whole entire time.
or the relic sits on board until it gets blown up by
until
mass
you
vandal.
lose or win.
Yeah.
And it's not going to win you the game because they're not going to, especially the relic example.
Yeah.
If I see the relics there, I'm not going to be like, well, let's roll this spy and see how this goes. And same thing on Macaw. If I put you on Macaw in your hand, you have 7 cards in your hand, and I can go for the combo.
What card, Cameron?
Macaw?
Macabre. It's a French word. It's macabre.
Okay. I don't care. But anyway,
It's just gonna irk the shit out of me.
I'm going to
all
keep
right.
saying it then. Great.
Please,
It'll come up
Cameron,
later.
please.
So if I'm sitting on Macaw in my hand, and but
James, come back.
But if I have Macaw in my hand the whole time, and I can't proactively use that, like it's different for like something that's proactive, like Dust to Dust or Cast in a Fire or Breath Weapon versus Elves.
Yeah, I mean, like you're talking about virtual card advantage that, and the kind of again from 15 years ago, the old Splinter Twin effect, where that you're going to artificially strand cards or mana or both because they have to be reactive to a presence. And so this is why, I mean, against Brute Scale 18 months ago, that Snuff Out, again, this is why Snuff Out was just omnipresent.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just having to hold up ultimate price or what is the
Cast down.
Cast
or-
down, yeah. That's
Ultimate
just
price. I don't know if that one's been downshifted.
But really?
I don't think that would work on Brute Scale because Brute Scale's colorless. I don't think that counts as monocolored, right?
Boo.
No.
Yeah.
No, you're right. So,
Cast down.
so no, that virtual card advantage effect is something that is very tricky to tease out. But no, I absolutely agree with you that's why you're going to get some of that, because you require a specific card already, and then you're going to get the value of them having to just sit on that card. And so this is kind of the end result of this somewhat kind of intermediate analysis, but I've got a bunch of decks. I have basically all the decks from the top 8 here.
Okay. Sick.
Whoa. And so
Mono Blue Fairies plots look wild.
Yeah, this one is definitely different, and I'm interested to see how the Moto one looks like.
It's a fatter triangle. The Moto one.
Yeah, but yeah, it's
That's so weird. It's just a line. It's just a little for the Fae for the winners metagame for Common Ground Cup 3. There's just a little line going up to like 30% on the variability score, and then one singular line going down to like 95 with sideboard resiliency, and that's it.
Yeah, and so I mean, and I think that's part of that's true. I mean, like we see all these blue blasts that are just rotting in that top 8 because you didn't have a single red deck. Well,
There was one
you had
Mono Red
okay.
Madness, but they didn't.
So again,
pair against them,
that makes sense for this tournament exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Versus,
well, there were two Rakdos Madness. I meant Rakdos Madness, but there were 2 Rakdos Madness in top, but even that's like half a black deck anyway.
Right.
Or close to half.
But like assuming the overall meta game, I wouldn't put Fae like this resilient versus like the overall meta game. Like if we're talking
Right, like if we
Moto
flip to the
or
Moto.
a blind meta game.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
still pretty
it's
high,
a little
but
bit less, yeah.
not as extreme.
But then we get more of a spike back into favorable matchups if we're looking at an overall metagame versus just the top 16. Okay.
Yeah, and so again, context is everything here. But that as we kind of continue we can march through. Like again, these are all top 8 from the cup. So again, we see White Weenie being highly resilient to sideboard cards. That there just aren't a lot of things to target, and that the go wide aggro being very robust against a wide swath of single target removal spells.
Almost like half the cards replace themselves too.
Right. Totally.
So
Very cool. A much smaller. Oh no, this is Rakdos.
Oh, I thought the same thing, Thomas. Like, damn, that's different.
I
different
did that for a few of them, but I kind of went through here. Again, Rakdos Madness. A little bit lower on all the scores here. That this one is I think, rewards some play skill a little bit more. Definitely some sequencing.
Yeah, there's a lot of tricky sequencing in Rakdos Madness where like the mono red deck is difficult to pilot perfect. I mean, any deck's difficult to pilot perfectly, but it's still difficult to play well, but sometimes you can just set up like grab the prize, snacker, buy some time until you gutter snipe, bolt, flashback lava dart, flyer blast, you're dead. Like you can kind of set it up and see it in various forms. The Rakdos Madness deck grinds a lot more and is just trying to be as consistent and just like damage and keeping up with cards like every turn for the
more
most part.
turns, more decisions.
Yeah, more turns, and therefore more decisions. Less combo burst kill you with gutter snipe, and more like grind you out with snackers and imps and some alms of the veins to give you some more time and gain some life and kind of go back and forth a little bit.
And both decks have a little bit. I think we've talked about this in the past, but again, we kind of talked about that low entry floor versus high ceiling. It's like, okay, when do you looting on 1 to pitch snackers? When do you like save your looting for 3 to do your combo of temper and alms of the vein, or when you deploying your creature first, yada yada.
Yeah, so that tracks. That this is a deck that definitely would benefit from player skill for sure.
Yeah, and I think this analysis is going to reward some of those highly linear decks, just like you talked about. The difference between Red Madness and Rakdos Madness here is that you're willing to go long. Adding the second color, you're going to have to make more decisions, and that you're just a little bit more vulnerable when you do that. That you're going to give some of these decks that want to play that game either time to kind of catch up or get back on their feet. Or you're going to take too long setting up that the tap lands and other stuff like that really can be punishing. FAMS is interesting here.
Very interesting.
Not too different from Spy, that bottom one.
Right. Yeah, we can.
A little bit on the right.
Yeah, so good. It's like pretty high scoring in highly favorable matchups, highly scoring in the sideboard resiliency, but more in sideboard effectiveness too.
But
there's more proactive sideboard cards.
But it lacks in the win part. Or was that far right? Does that say average win?
So the average win is below average. It's like probably 25%, and the variability doesn't have a lot of highly variable matchups. Does have a reasonable, more than 50% of the highly favorable matchups, and its highly favorable matchups, Spy at like 53% and Elves at almost 57%, well represented in the top 8.
That makes sense. Again, another deck that also rewards player skill. I don't imagine someone being like, oh, they're like hosting this tournament. I kind of played Pauper at locals. I think I'm going to bring FAMS. Like just out of the blue with no reps. It's people like Adrian, who I trust is a very good Magic player.
Well, and we see this at Paupergeddon, like time after time after time.
Yeah.
You're just people are like, oh man, FAMS is around. Why is FAMS around in day 2? And it's like, well, shocker. Their highly favorable matchups went. Their sideboard got better.
Yeah.
It's like if you could crawl out of the massive meta game.
Yeah, exactly what you're saying earlier, Ryan. If you can rely on your player, if you have a reasonable deck with at least enough reasonable matches for the major spread, and you can rely on player skill to get through day 1, then you can rely on your assumptions based on the winner's metagame here to have even better matchups and sideboard effectiveness and resiliency across the way to improve, add to your skill. I think that's a really, really good point that then we see come to fruition here in the data. Very cool.
And I think, I have some of the top decks here, and so
Sure.
This is Terror.
Look at that boomerang on the top. At least it doesn't play anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, I just put one back in my sideboard. It might be a mistake.
And again, we see that growth here in the winner's metagame, where while it's still kind of below average, honestly, on all these things, again, when you can tune your Terror deck to really target folks, you can do better, and then also you're just gonna have to hope that they clear all the elves out of the way.
Dude, we were talking
And
about
the
this
white weenie
before you
players.
came over. Our friend, alum of the pod, Brute, he was like 2-X in the tournament, but he was playing Mono Blue Terror. His only 2 wins were against elves. So just because you're 60-40, say I made that number up, just because you're 60-40 doesn't mean you are a sure-in every time. Like y'all are talking. It's like, no, you still got to work.
Oh, yeah.
You still got to play the game right. You
have
let
to
your
know what
guard
you're doing.
down. You're shocked that you lost. It's like you still got to play the game.
He was also playing a version with like max gut shots, max demon fear,
Yeah.
specifically because the elves matchup was so poor. So like that also could swing a little bit because you're preparing for it, you know.
And that, again, when we have bigger samples and just a different one, this is the common ground metagame versus the moto meta. We see that we don't see that big a growth. And again, that being more targeted online.
For sure.
So why does it like do so well online?
I think it is where what you guys were talking about earlier, that it's just a play skill thing, that when you just have so many reps with these decks, I think there are definitely sharks and there are fish on Moto, and that
Yes.
when the metagame is so inbred, because it's the same 500 people playing, that it's those outrageous win rates.
Yeah, they just rise to the top a little bit more often than everyone else, and that's enough to prop up some numbers here and there. Yeah,
Well, and I think I was
or at least visibility anyway.
I was catching up on Princes of Pauper, and they were going through some of the win rates. That's
just for New York.
Outrageous win rates.
Well, when you
approaching over 90%, 80%, like, and that like
Well,
over
you're-
reasonable sample sizes, and that's like, okay, you got a megalodon amongst.
not everybody's Mike Flores, but
True.
and that's why I
or any other killers in their metagame. There's
Oh, yeah.
I watched some good magic happen on coverage.
sorry, I'm
this
trying
weekend.
to talk and fix this. Oh my god. When I got out of my chair to look at the chart, it was because I was looking at Jund Wildfires versus Elves, because they their last episode they covered Elves. They're mentioning that the Elves player is like, yeah, no, Jund's and that's a favorable matchup. So I was checking the metagame percentage from MTG decks.
I was wondering
and
if we would get through
it was-
the pod without referencing another Pauper pod. but
Yeah,
here
I
we are.
know. They're all the free shout outs.
Shout out Casting Commons.
Yeah,
Shout out, shout out Paper Doll.
Shout out Zach.
Shout out Zach.
Baby Soft making content on YouTube. Any other? Shout out Callie for being great
Yeah,
too.
shout out Callie.
Anybody?
Anybody else?
Okay, but their elf player
Strata,
Bill
probably.
was saying on Prince of Pauper that
Mill guy.
Jund was favored in the elves. So I was just checking the MTG Dex thing, and that I think that 45, 55 or whatever. I can do math. Isn't like that drastically of a difference, and there's 45-55. There's a lot of room there for player skill. I think.
Totally.
Like just because something's like that again doesn't mean like, oh, I'm favored. I'm gonna win.
Okay, this is very interesting to me. So this is the Mono Red Madness slide, and just for Common Ground Cup, the radar chart for the full meta and the radar chart for the winners meta look very different, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, I think unsurprisingly that like your anti having 3 fairy decks in the top 8 does really like turns on the Pyroblast.
Familiars in 8th place. What else we had? Blue Black Terror in 9th. I think there's a blue red. I think there's a blue red deck also in top 16 somewhere.
Mono white, Sam.
Well, that's. I mean, I guess the
Are you talking
Searing
about sideboard
Blaze is
resiliency?
sideboard effectiveness.
Oh, effectiveness. I was looking at.
because then against the winners metagame, all your like pyroblasts get super turned on
Yep,
by
sorry.
like the 3 fairies.
hard
players in
to
top 8.
read.
No, you're good. That makes sense. That's very interesting. And your average win rate would go up, which is surprising because there were no Mono Red Madness copies in top 16, which I guess is telling in that the results are much lower for the full metagame versus the top 16. So if one or two people had managed to break through, then they might have had a better time.
And that, just a totally different animal online. And I think we kind of see that. We just don't see Red Madness taking challenges left and right. That I think you do
Not as much as it did when it first.
You
hit the
do
scenes,
see
anyway.
some of these, and maybe again, like we talked about, does Red Madness have a champion? Like I can't name anybody off of that of somebody that is running
They come and go.
Flores' numbers on
Moto.
on Moto.
NM Scott.
Oh, NMTSEO 94.
Yeah,
Yeah. Ganja de Jonga flips between that and elves.
But like Ryan, like you said, it's like you'll see a few in the top 8, like during the weekends, like 2 to 3. But it's not like when we first saw this deck kind of emerge on the scene where it's like, ooh, this is like it's putting up like 2 to 3 per challenge, not
Right.
over the Thursday, Sunday.
Right.
Yeah, and just for a deck that has is usually second or first in metagames share, to not have to be effectively below, because that black dash line is 50%. That's the average. So like to be below average, yeah, and then not gain anything in the winners metagame, I think is somewhat telling. I think that is maybe partially play skill. I don't know if there's any card availability issues online, but that
Not usually with rental programs.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on what level. But yeah, you really shouldn't have any difficulty.
well, I think this is kind of maybe start to wrap it up here, but
Sure. I mean, I also one last note on Mono Red. I think also because Mono Red Madness is much more of a killer in the leagues, like getting if people want to just get
just
like fast
burns through
5-0s.
leagues.
So like that might also be contributing to its presence in the metagame percentages, like on Goldfish, because they all and MTG decks, because they're taking also the League 5-0 dumps into account as well, not just challenges and other events. So that also could definitely be swinging some in that direction as well.
the last one here,
All right.
sorry, is Elves.
Elves.
And I think Elves has a very, I don't know if
That
I
is
did
a
it.
fascinating chart.
So on Common Ground Cup, very high for both full meta and winners meta, highly favorable matchups, really good meta average win rate for the winners meta
God, there
game.
was no
pretty decent
there
sideboard.
were no
resilience
Clark
too.
shamans in the room.
Yeah, that's true. Not a ton of sweepers.
For that, yeah.
There were literally
Basically no
there were
sweepers in
3
top
decks
8.
with Kirkland Shaman in
Yeah.
them.
Then why is the resiliency so low?
Because it is still
Well, the resilience is high. The effectiveness is pretty low.
I think you lose some resiliency.
You do.
just because you're the effectiveness goes up.
The effectiveness technically
Okay.
goes up a little, but the resiliency goes down some.
But why is that with
Between
like no
full meta
Clan
to
Shamans
winners
you're
meta.
playing against? I guess there's
Well, these are all sideboard thing options. This is. Or you're talking about the vulnerability score on the top.
on the bottom where it says sideboard resiliency. It's so low, but wouldn't you think you'd be pretty resilient to sideboards if there's
Well, it's average. It's above average because that black dash line is average.
Okay.
So it's above average.
Okay.
In the full metagame.
okay.
I don't know. Like I said, the top 16 for the cup is definitely, that's obviously a very stark difference. To,
Yeah, it is one
two
tournament.
things. You're gonna have a whole bunch of zeros, and so I'm sure that's playing with things here. But obviously, getting to see your highly favorable matchups, as well as just like a highly favorable metagame. Period.
Yeah.
Not surprised to see those increase in tandem.
Elves does have the highest win rate in this projected like average this table that is on all of the Common Ground Cup slides here.
Yeah.
Elves does have the highest winners metagame win rate projected here.
Right. And that we see, maybe more of a stable metagame here.
Sure. This looks a lot like the shape that Spy had for the cup distribution, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Again, highly favorable matchups, good average win rate, a little bit above average sideboard resiliency. So that stuff is all kind of tracking from the cup to this, but
Then,
this
like
is
average sideboard effectiveness.
Yeah, it's about
'Cause,
the
again,
same.
narrow sideboard.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
always-
most I assume. I know Derek's playing like Shib's list or whatever.
Then that's like the 15
It's just like the
card
15
burn. Yeah.
red
Yeah.
mono red
Oh
cards.
my god, I would hate that.
It was fun.
Figuring out how to sideboard with
You
the
don't
card.
actually bring all 15 into the burn matchup based on this, because it's like the gingerbread cabin,
want that.
4 Vitugazi inspectors.
I want those.
You want those? 3 Spinewood paladins.
I want those.
3 Pulsamarasas.
I want those.
I don't want those
You-
against burn. That's too much mana.
You realize how much mana this deck makes, right?
But against burn, you're likely cutting your Priest of Titania.
I'm just saying,
so-
you realize you just make a ton.
But
of mana.
you're bringing in Spinewoods, which gains less for
Spinewood
more.
Paladin.
But it also closes the game.
Exactly.
It's just a beater.
Uh-huh.
It's just a big dude.
But were you cutting Timberwatch Elves?
You're cutting Timberwatch Elves and Priest of Titanias, and
Yeah, I think that's right.
you could likely if
Interesting. I agree.
your draw spells.
not if you're not bringing in the Pulsamarasas, you can keep the draw
Yeah,
spells.
because Pulse is kind of cut drama. This is yeah.
Anyway.
yeah. I learned that from.
Okay.
We're done shouting you out. No more until we start seeing the cash flow in.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, like I said, this analysis was all kind of, tailored to helping me, do better at some of the things that I do. I have some stuff cooking. I'm really excited to look at. I wanted to look at some mulligans. Looking at I've always been really interested by, and this is a quote of a quote, so I'll apologize to Mr. Bard Nelson if I've gotten it wrong, but that a lot of his dominant standard run was fueled by understanding the first 4 turns of every match.
He's like literally just if you can memorize the first 4 turns of your deck, like the rest is that
and every matchup.
Yeah, in the matchups of the metagame. Yeah.
I've sat through a bunch of leagues of Blue Terror and Rally and Spy, and I've tracked mulligans. I've tracked every hand that they have, what turn they whether they win or lose, what turn they won or lost on, and I'm really looking to try and build some models of mulligans for them. And then also, if you can build a model that'll mulligan, you can also build a model that'll give you opening hands, a realistic set of opening hands, and you can look at the patterns in that, and that will lead to that.
Okay.
The first 4 turns are going to be derived from what opening hand did you get? If for Blue Terror, you're going to get hands that have Delvers. You have early Delver hands. You have threat hands. You have really reactive hands. You have hands that are just like, could be anything because they're all cantrips.
Yeah.
So looking at those and how those might branch out, and then I think I'm going to try and do like red versus blue, and look at how those branching patterns interact. I'm excited for that. I've been crunching on that for a while now, but to kind of bring this one home, I think the stuff that I want people to take away is just like, don't give away your agency. Look at, sit down, even if you just are going to build a sideboard guide, just look at the first, you don't have to do all 16 decks. You can do 5, or even if you want to just do macro archetypes, just do, aggro, like linear aggro, combo control, the
Throw some
decks.
naturalizes in there, and
and that. But I'd always recommend do a sideboard guide where you look at what comes out as well as what comes in.
Yeah,
that's always
it's like these cards are bad. Like we always say, we always say like the ha, take out the bad cards, put in the good cards. It's like,
right.
Well, what are the bad cards? We don't actually know what the bad cards are.
And understanding the hardest part about sideboarding is like it's nice when there are bad cards. The hardest part is
all your cards are good.
Exactly.
All
It's
your
like
cards are like Spy for an example.
It's what do I take out, and maybe then understanding, okay, I'm cutting good cards, but I'm putting in better cards. Sometimes you start cutting counterspells for Blast. That's an example.
Totally.
Is counterspell bad? Not really. Is Blast better? Yes.
More mana efficient.
Exactly. And
matchups where you probably want those, or you want mana efficiency.
And I don't want 13 counterspells.
No.
I want 8 or 9 versus a trillion.
Yeah. I think also just understand what metagame you're expecting.
Yeah, that's hard.
That's hard, but I mean, you can at the very least look at
MTG decks or
like
Goldfish
look at those and look at some of the finer breakdowns. Look at the stuff that's online versus look at the MTG decks has a full aggregation. All they have online versus paper. They have major events.
Knowing your locals.
I think
too,
I would look at that.
big.
Yeah, knowing your locals.
We have a sick amount of Elvis players here. Like that's something we could have expected from the Cup. Just going to Middle Tennessee Gaming.
I played Elves for the first time in Middle Tennessee on Thursday. Got a nice 4-0.
See,
It was a blast.
dominant.
kinda
That
hard.
deck
That's
rips, dude.
Kind of hard to have a 4-0 when there's only 3 rounds.
There were 4 rounds.
Were there 4 rounds?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
You're
we
right.
played in round
we
3
did.
to have the pleasure of who would get to play Devin for 4-0.
The pleasure.
The
Yeah.
pleasure of playing Devin.
And by
That's
that, we
true,
mean
it
the
is a
pleasure of getting
pleasure.
to beat Devin for the 4-0.
Yes, I
shade.
believe.
We love you, Debbie.
I think that understanding where you're at. What are you looking to do at a tournament? Are you looking to just like, I want to make day 2. I want to take the whole thing down. Or I don't think I haven't played long enough, or I know I just don't have enough in the tank to take a deck like Red Madness or Blue Terror to victory. I need to spike. What are the options out there? That let me do
tend
that.
to be more like the linear linear decks that just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and that like something like mono white heroic or boggles and things
And
like that.
it
Like,
sort of shakes out that way in the data too,
Yeah.
which is very cool
What
to
do
see.
your skills favor too?
yeah, like you know your strengths as a player, or you probably should know your strengths as a player. Lean into the things that you are good doing. Like, should you always lean into those things and forget the other parts of Magic? No, you shouldn't do that. But like, if you're going to a big tournament, like, play something you're comfortable with playing, that you like know how things work, and give yourself the highest favorability rating that you can give yourself.
And it is hard when you look at stuff like this too. You got to take in consideration. We've been saying this all the time, but knowing your deck, but yes, also knowing the other decks. And if you're that enfranchised in the format, I think you're just going to have a leg up above the average person. But if the whole field is, or the winner's meta is at that skill level, then it kind of starts to balance out a little bit too. But
Yeah, I think that, doing this exercise was really interesting for me because I hadn't played since the August Cup. I went out and took a spin a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks before the Cup, with some Blue Terror, just to be like, do I still have it? And I was like, probably gonna play Rally for the Cup. I think the final bit that I want to get is that hammering home that winner's metagame. That if you truly want to win tournaments, you need to understand what the winner's metagame, and it's always going to be a guess. And like we talked about earlier, that there are times even the pros get it wrong. But trying to understand what converts, so that you can plan against that, and that's not the first step, but if you do truly want to take the tournaments down, that's a step you should move toward.
Really, really cool. Thank you so much for being on the show, Ryan.
Jesus.
This was awesome.
This is very cool.
A monster of an amount of work. We'll have links to the slide deck in the show notes in Discord if you're in there. If you're not, hop on in. It's the water's great. But we'll have links to all of this that y'all can follow along, or you can read after your drive safely. And dude, thank you. Any shout outs you want to give anywhere? You already said your Razor lead and some numbers on Discord, so folks can contact you there. Any other things you want to shout out?
No, just appreciate you guys getting me on. This is something that I've been trying to wheedle in for a while now.
Yeah.
no, we appreciate it a lot.
I did some Q podcasts with some of the folks I played with up in Illinois years ago, and I was like, oh man, I really want to get back on this now that I have another podcast that's in the backyard here.
There you go. Well, we should get you back on when you work on the Mulligan data. That'd be really interesting to hear about once you have that kind of sussed out. That'd be pretty sick.
Data time with Ryan Part 2.
Or when you win the Summer Cup.
Or
Make sure you play a black-green deck. I don't care what the results of the say. I don't care what they say. You must play a black-green deck.
Yeah.
The data is 100% win rate for a black.
Argue with that data.
well, and maybe we can come back. We can run this again before the next Cup and give people an inside look.
Oh, that would be fun.
Good. Yeah.
Do a little exclusive, a little Discord exclusive. Do a live stream so people can follow along live. That'd be fun.
Well, I mean, you guys can spin up the Patreon. We could do a Patreon exclusive.
Oh yeah,
We were literally talking.
we were literally talking about that stuff before you got here.
That's what you walked into.
Yeah.
And then the tail end.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool.
I don't think we have any other events to shout out outside. There's an event up in Bowling Green on the 7th. I'll include in the show notes. You can win some beta basics. It's in Bowling Green, Kentucky, just about 45 minutes an hour north of Nashville. There's also the Piedmont Pauper League in North Carolina at Dragon's Horde in Greensboro. Luke's doing a great job getting that going out there. So the February event's coming right up, as well as I believe the first event of the Cascadia Pauper Circuit up in the Pacific Northwest is just a couple days from this when you hear it. This coming Saturday the 21st.
We have the Court of Commons.
Yeah,
The Court of Commons Quarterly,
yeah.
the COC, if you will, is March 21st.
Saturday, March 21st, and it's in Murray, Kentucky at Enchanted Gaming Emporium.
More details to follow,
More
but
details to
I
follow.
believe that is probably the case.
Okay, cool. It's in the Kentucky area.
Yeah, information to
Thursdays.
come soon.
Yeah.
Every Thursday
Yeah.
when this podcast comes out. Middle Tennessee Gaming.
Oh yeah. That's always in the show notes.
I know. Come battle us. Is it really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's in the show notes every
Dope.
week. Yeah.
Come battle us.
Yeah. And details on Common Ground Cup 4 coming sooner than expected, hopefully.
'Cause
We have a lot to play.
Y'all showed up after an ice storm, so y'all better show up when the weather's nice as hell.
Whew. We have a lot to plan.
Yeah, we do.
Cool.
Exciting stuff.
Any other notes? Anything else?
Ooh, but no, I got a topic idea though. Like how to get better, like how to actually get better at games. Because like if you're looking at like your
Someone
win
asked
rates,
us about that a while ago.
yeah, and I like that because it's
in the
like if
email,
we're looking
yeah.
at stuff like this and it's like, okay, I'm favorable here, but I'm losing. How do I stop losing?
Sure.
I don't think that's as easy
think-
an answer.
I think my favorite answer to this is play with people that are better than you.
There you go. Episode finished. You got 2 episodes for the price of one today.
I solved that for you real
Oh, and,
fast.
It's a podcast within a podcast.
Rardy asked for a shout out too.
Well, shout out
Rardy.
Shout out Rardy.
And Rardy's pet pictures.
Yes. So you can find those pet pictures in the Common Ground Discord. You should join that. You can bug Ryan about any data points. I'm sure he would be more than happy if you picked his brain. Yeah, you're always in there for the pretty in-depth stuff, especially like when the band stuff starts talking. And I always value your opinions pretty highly.
Yeah,
Because you look at stuff with this kind of brain over, I like these cards because I like these cards.
Yeah, I was always I was not on the brute scale ban. I would have left brute scale alone. I really
no
enjoyed,
longer value your opinion. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I really enjoyed the like 2015 modern
Twin.
simulacrum that where everything
There's a
was like
Splinter Twin.
really wedged around
Twin
a really
pod.
Okay,
dynamic combo.
but you can recognize it as something you enjoy specifically. And
Oh, yeah, 'cause-
everybody may not enjoy.
because that just lets me play like that. I love
someone that can look at a metagame and say, "I can."
I
target
love
this." Yeah,
that
makes sense.
blue black snacker control list that Barf had. I
yeah.
really enjoyed that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, this that makes sense for your
deck was
brain.
sick.
If you got any
Yeah,
comments, questions, concerns, come join the Discord. You can ask questions in there. If you don't want to join the Discord or don't have Discord, you can also email those to us at commongroundmtgpod@gmail.com. Those description links are in the description link below, as well as this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful PowerPoint.
Also, I need them stars.
15 star. Yeah, we've been stagnant at 111 reviews, so
Oh,
bump that up. I want those.
I want
numbers
those to
higher.
match our episode count. Come on.
Yeah. We need 3 more stat. I got no more comments to make.
that's it.
I'm out.
Yeah. Thank you so much
it.
for listening, fam.
Thanks, everyone.
Much love.
Bye. I got one comment off mic though once we're done.
Okay. Well, you want me to turn it off?
Well, once you're done recording.
No, yeah. You want me to stop recording?
Yeah, I
and
don't
then
want you to
say-
have this.
Okay.
I know you're not done.
Damn it. Okay. Okay, go.
I'm gonna unplug it.
Okay.